Welcome. I am Johnny Stanton. We have Reginald Perryman and Shaka Williams. We are TSARE. This is There's Something About Real Estate podcast where we talk all things real estate. What's up, guys?
What's up?
What's up?
He just turned into Martin. Shamartin Lawrence. So, how was the day?
Day was great.
Long as
Life is
hell.
good. Long as hell. What you do
I
today?
ain't complaining. But yeah, it was long as shit. Running around all damn day, which I'm not supposed to on Fridays.
Oh,
It's supposed to
okay.
be like a slow day.
Yeah. I unusually book stuff on today, which is a recording day, and I'm not supposed to do that. I don't know how I did that. Open houses, showing appointments, recording. It's a whole full work day.
All right.
But you do that on your normal Friday.
Reggie don't never stop.
Yeah. Nah.
Don't stop, won't
I'm
stop.
pumped. P. Diddy. Rez Diddy.
Isn't his name Love?
I don't do that. That shit Reggie be doing, that's incredible.
I am incredible.
Like,
No, I ain't do a lot today. I came in. I made some calls. Met with a few people. Helped somebody with probate deal they had. Picked up my closing check from Detroit Title. What up, Emma and them? Went to the range and that was it.
yeah, I was about to say, where the golf at? How long was you at the range?
Not long. I'm the shit at the range, but on the course
Course,
it
it's
don't
changed,
it don't
yeah.
click like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, that's it. Got some money, hit some golf balls, and gave some advice. That's a good day.
You golf today?
He
No, I went to the range.
Oh,
The range, yeah.
Dope.
I was texting. I'm sorry, y'all. All right. So we're going to talk about, we had on the other episode, we were fully intending to talk about just like when the client works against you in general, buyer, seller, whomever.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we only really made it through the buyer portion. So we're going to come back tonight, talk a little bit about the seller clients and how it is when they are working against you a little bit.
Is it that they're working against us or they're not listening to our advice?
What's the difference?
Working against you is like everything you're saying. They're just like, no, they're going against it. But sometimes you give them advice, they do something, but it's not necessarily against you. It's still moving the deal forward.
So I think I'm talking about working against you. So I think in a full scenario, you're never going to be in a situation where there's like complete agreement. There has to be like compromise and things like that in the relationship. But if you're a novice and you're not in real estate, you're not paying attention to the market every day, and then you hire a professional, you're going to pay them all this money to support your goals, and then you're not going to take the professional advice that's going to move your transaction forward.
Right. So they're working against you. So it'd be the same as if they hired an attorney and an attorney said, hey, this is how I want you to answer these questions, or I don't want you to go on the stand.
Right.
And you don't listen to that advice, you get your ass on the stand.
Right.
You know what I mean? So now you're working against the attorney. They do that same thing with the realtors.
Yeah, because we looking at it as from experience. We looking at market data. We looking at it from a logical standpoint. Sometimes your client is looking at it from emotions. Because they'll start saying stuff, well, I feel like this or I feel like this. Whereas if you got 8 offers and they are within 10,000, between 240 and 250, well, I feel like my house should be selling for 270. Well, I mean, the market is focused.
Totally. And if you only got one offer, for 240,
Yeah.
the market spoke. You know what I
Right.
mean? Pretty much, right? It depending on how long you've been on the market.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, we're not talking about, we listed the house 48 hours ago and you got one offer and you're going to take an offer $40,000 less than what you want. We're talking about, some significant time, I think, in that circumstance, because I think that does happen when we're talking like price. So I guess we can kind of start there. That's one of the ways that a seller client could work against the agent. So if you're going into the situation and you're presenting market data for the area, and there's an education process. So these are the houses that have recently sold. You want to, be within the parameters of what the appraiser is going to, give an opinion on. Try to get as, vet that situation as much as possible by paying attention to the market, the most recent sales, most like property, and you give them all this information, and then they still go. So if you say, oh, the house is worth $400,000 and they want to list it at $475,000, and you're kind of like, okay, well, how, if the buyer that's coming in is going to get a mortgage, how are we going to get the appraiser to agree with $475,000 when everything else says $390,000 to $410,000?
Right.
That's a good example. Another example being pricing it right? So I don't think that a lot of sellers understand that there is a, I want to call it a game, but
Strategy.
it's a strategy.
It's
Yeah,
a
strategy behind that, right?
Because you get the sellers that always be like, well, I want to start high in case they want to negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, if you start high, you're not even going to get people in the door to negotiate. If you start at the market or below, you're going to get competition. So this is what's funny. We've been getting multiple offers on properties for the past several years based on pricing strategies and the demand in the market. But then you get the seller that says, I want to start high. And we're like, no, we're showing you proven results, how you can get above asking price. People are not starting high and talking you down unless you've been on the market for a long period of time. But in their mind, they still think that because that's how it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, but I feel like that's so 2005.
Right.
And you don't want to be in that position. You don't want to be in a position to be talked
Coming down.
You want to be in a position to be people to bid you up.
Bid you up, right.
You know what I mean?
Because, and so what's the negatives in pricing too high?
You sit on the market and people think something wrong with it. Well, what's wrong with it being on the market this long?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's been on the market for 29 days. Offer them $20,000 less than what they asking.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So, really just understanding that you have, a really good product, something that people really need. We've been talking about low inventory. And then you go out here and because you feel like it has the best kitchen in the neighborhood, you're going to list it, for all these dollars more than what the data and the numbers suggest. I just think it's a really bad idea. So, that's some of the talks that I have with people, and I will be honest, I'm not writing some contracts based on that, but I'm not necessarily sure I'm mad about it, because who wants to be the agent that's listing too high
Not closing.
and not closing the deal, the listing expiring, or when you look at the sold, it sold for $20,000, $30,000 less because that's where it was supposed to be positioned at in the first place. You lose time. Time is money.
Right.
Because most people still have holding costs. They have other goals and things they're trying to accomplish. Maybe they're trying to get into a new financing situation. They need to lock their rate in. They can't find their next home because they still got this other home. It's all types of things that hold you back when you price too high. So,
but there are times where not necessarily you being wrong, but the scenario, that small percentage opportunity is there. So like, for example, with Erica's house, we all was estimating about $250 at that time, and she stood on what she needed to get. Y'all listed it for what did y'all list it for?
I stood on what she needed to get.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah. So she didn't work
So we
against
listed
her.
it. So in that situation, that's a good example of when I don't know if she trusted the process. They said that particular seller said they trusted the process and they understood the data that I was presenting at the time.
Right.
And that would be a good scenario of taking the advice, but it's a little backwards because who would not listen to the agent that's coming in saying that they can get them a lot more money than what everyone else is saying?
But I'm saying the other agents that she talked to, including myself, said one price.
Yeah.
But you gave her another price. So in other words, our advice was based on what the market was showing us. So sometimes... right. Sometimes, and this is why you get opinions. But once you start hearing the same thing over and over again, you have to pay attention to that.
Yeah,
But
I think that if you can present data, though, that suggests something a little bit different, that's where the glimmer of hope comes
Right.
in. And I think in that particular situation, that's what happened. So what I know, so we have Detroit, and I don't know, like abroad, other cities and things like that, like how they work. But in Detroit, we got this weird, so we grew up in Detroit. And from a kid, I've known from block to block, it's situational.
Right.
And then having that be something that I understand in real estate, like when we're going into listing and selling properties, I don't know how to explain it. But in that situation, that house was not priced, not based on data. It was priced very specifically based on data, and I had so much challenge that came back from that. But the thing that people don't pay attention to, so Bagley in particular, is still one of our most desired historic communities. And you have to pay attention to amenities and square footage. So not just square footage over there, but you have to also have the amenities because you still have people that want to live in Detroit, but people that want to live in Detroit, they have something that they have things that they really want, right? It's got to be probably like some of the amenities that come into play with living in certain areas.
Right.
And then after that, it's going to be like the character of the house that you can't find if you leave Detroit. And then after that, it's going to be, well, I need to make sure I have this many bedrooms, this many bathrooms, plus a garage, plus a fence, plus a this. And when you run into a situation where you have a house in a certain community that has like all the amenities, then you can kind of price strategy a little bit different. And I think that's what everybody else that was giving her price suggestions, they were missing. Like, the market was saying 247.5. That's what it was saying based on just like going there, you take a quick glance, that's what you're going to come up with. But if you take a bit of a deeper dive, then, you can kind of come up with a little bit more. And so that's why she won in that situation. And she that particular seller, she sold for more than list price within the first weekend.
Right.
And it was backed up by the appraisal.
And it was backed up by the appraisal.
Right.
So
when you have a seller like that, so the average seller is looking for that to happen, and that doesn't happen often. So a lot of sellers feel like they'll be willing to take that risk and come in at that higher price, but you had a strategy around marketing that property as well. And a lot of sellers would be like, well, I'll go with somebody else, or I'll keep interviewing until I hear what I want to hear.
Exactly.
Right. And when they hear it, that doesn't mean that it's going to sell for that. Because that was still taking a chance.
It was.
But you just had, right.
And I'll be honest, I was scared. A lot of times when it's crazy, all the years in, and whenever I get a listing and, because a lot of what we say, so we do our pricing strategies most of the time are data driven.
Right.
But a lot of the other stuff is opinion, just like the seller too, right? The opinion, but I think we have a more educated opinion based on working and experience in the market and the industry.
Like the appraiser.
Yeah. I mean, but when also working in certain areas in the city, I'm starting to have appraisers come and say, well, what are you seeing? Well, can you send me something?
Right.
What do you, like they're asking, and it's kind of like, okay, and yes, as a matter of fact, I do have some data to back up what it is I'm suggesting. Here you go. So, it's nice to be in a winning state, but it is also scary because there's always the like, okay, what if this time I'm wrong?
Yeah. Well, that's everybody.
It can happen.
Yeah.
Right?
So the other one I have an issue with is when sellers don't listen when it comes to repairs.
Ooh.
See?
Improvements and updates. Yes, that was the next one. Reggie just segued into it. So let's talk about that.
Because that goes into pricing too. So a lot of times you're meeting with the client and they say, oh, I'm going to do this before I put it on the market, or I want to do this or whatever. And I'm trying to tell them this improvement that you're trying to do is not going to add value. Some stuff is good for marketing, but it doesn't add value, right? So if I put on, if they go and put in all new windows, that may add some value, but you're probably not going to get a dollar for dollar return on your investment, right? Or I have a seller where the house is in fair condition and they do some improvements, like it's an old furnace, and they put in a new furnace and they expect to get $10,000 more for the house. Or they did so much work to the house to get it from fair to average. And I'm like, well, people expect to have at least an average house. Who cares what you spent on it to get it to average? You're still going to get average price for an average price range because the house is now average. But sometime in their mind, they think because of everything they had to do to just get it to a livable condition, that they should get X amount of dollar, a multiplier return on their investment. And it just doesn't work like that all the time.
The biggest person I run into that with is investors, especially ones that don't know what the hell they doing.
Right.
Right. The ones that I can't wait to bring so we got some new investors. I can't wait to bring them on the show. Right.
Okay.
But a lot of time they over improve.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Expecting to get certain dollars amount back. And they just hurting themselves because they're not making the money, the profit that they expected to make. Because you over improved in the area. That's why if y'all watch Deal or No Deal on Sundays, are we still on Sundays?
Yeah.
Yes.
On Sundays at whatever time it is.
I don't even know what day you be talking.
Right. You'll see Reggie will say, before we give our opinion of what the repair cost is, we got to go look at the comparables because we're trying to see how much of an upgrade we need to make. Right. Investors, for newbie investors or people that are new in this or that's doing this for fun or because they saw Flip That House or whatever the shows are on TV, they don't understand that concept.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know what's worse about that is the worst thing I seen is when they say if I can't get this amount, I'm just gonna sit on it, right? And then they don't rent it out or do nothing. So like I got several investors, and I go out and I give them an estimate of what the market value is. Let's say the ARV is 180 to 190, and they like, oh, I got 160 into it.
Yo, bad.
Well, that means you just you just brought it wrong. Whoever sold it to you sold you a pipe dream. Because they told them the ARV was 220, right? There's a reason, not only wholesalers, there's a reason this person is not helping you sell the house, right? Because they don't want to get caught up in their lie because now they got to prove what they said. So I tell you it's 180 to 190, and you say, well, I'm not going to sell it. I'm just going to sit on it because I got 160 into it. Well, you sit on it a year and a half, 2 years. It may go up some in value, but you
spent that. You spent your
by the time you paid taxes and insurance and utilities, you back at the same spot. So sometimes people do just over improve for the area.
Yeah, I mean, as an investor, sometimes I have to go. Like I have to ride and look. I have to see, okay, what's happening over here. What are we doing? Especially some of our area that's supposed to be like, more historical. Are we going to replace these windows or are they selling like they are?
Right.
For that same reason, you don't want to go in putting in stuff you don't have to do when the house that's sold for where you're trying to sell it at. It's sold with similar windows, similar roof, similar kitchen. Right. But I also ask sellers that all the time. It's kind of like, I'll get a listing appointment and it's like, well, we really want to upgrade this kitchen. And it's kind of like, do you? Especially in this market.
Yeah.
Are you sure knocking this kitchen out? Like, I've been in some kitchens where it's easily like a $50,000 kitchen.
Right.
You're going to gut this kitchen and spend $50,000 on it. Like, how you plan on getting that back?
Yeah. And by the time you get the kitchen done, because all the contractors busy, we're in a whole different market. And it can work against you. And even if you do get the money back, it might just be a break even. So you just wasted 6 months of your time for the same exact amount of money back. And there's no guarantee that the new buyer's going to even like that kitchen.
The stuff you pick.
Because you come back to the housewarming, and it's like, oh, y'all redid y'all kitchen. Like, but they just put that kitchen in. Oh, we ain't like it. Yeah. We ain't like the cabinets.
My biggest thing on that is like paint color, lights. Everybody I want these nice lights. For what? You're going to come back, they're going to put you don't know what lights they want. You don't know what paint color they want. You know what I mean? Like, come on. But that's a big one.
There's also some sellers that say, well, I'm not fixing that. They ain't fix it when I brought it. Okay. You ever get that? that crack was there when I brought it. Like, yeah, you brought it like that. You also brought it when the market crashed as a foreclosure of $15,000. Now we selling it for $280. You better fix that $1,000 crack.
Because your competition.
I swear, I
is-
just had a similar. It wasn't like that. The person didn't necessarily have any problems with improvements, but it was a conversation about the price point that they're at. So, well, I pay $800 a month, and I only owe, and I paid $90,000 for the house. And it's like, okay, now you want to sell this house, and you want to upgrade your house, and you want to borrow $250,000 to do it. You're not gonna pay $800 a month.
Right.
So that happens, when you go into listing appointments and, people are expecting to still like pay or have the same mortgage that they, I bought this house 20 years or 25 years ago and I paid $200,000 less than what I want to spend on my new house and I want the same exact mortgage.
Right. Yep.
So that brings us to our next one. Janita had inspections. Tell us what you were thinking about inspections.
So people get so like excited about needing to sell the house, whether it's especially investors. I need to get my money out. And so I'm going to let this buyer come in and ask me to rebuild the house. And then I'm going to say yes.
They bully.
The buyer bullying the seller.
Yeah.
Like, why are you pouring a new driveway? Stop. Like, don't do it. Because, and then there are things too that the buyer sees when they're approaching the property. They see the driveway, they see the stairs.
Right.
They're walking through the house, they see the windows. So you have like your latent or hidden defects or whatever. Things that are uncovered within the inspection. And, somebody I think can legitimately come in and say, oh, the inspector checked the attic and there's mold. We don't know if this is harmful mold. We just know we don't want to live with mold. So we need to have that inspected and remediated. Mm-hmm. That's a reasonable, request. But you coming in saying that I need you to redo these stairs and it was tipping when you walked up them and when you made the offer,
right.
Why are you letting this client bully you into doing improvements to the house that are not going to yield you the return that you're trying to get?
I got one. They made an offer on it and they came in. First they came in low, then they came up in price with concessions. Then after the inspection, they came back and the agent was like, yeah, but we got to, my buyer wants to reduce their offer because, he's got to do a lot of upgrades and improvements and he might have to replace the windows. I'm like, but you didn't need an inspection to tell you needed upgrades. Mm-hmm. When I mean upgrades, we're talking about updating the kitchen and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Was no inspection items. They just tried to use that as leverage.
You saw that this was a 1975 kitchen when you walked this property
and this was
put your offer in.
2001
2004 house.
20,
which people don't realize that was 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah, now it's time to start upgrading, right?
We were just talking about that at the open house I did today. Everything was nice and new and like refurbished.
Updated. I'm sorry, I said upgrade. I meant update.
But the kitchens were dated.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right? They were clean. They had granite, but they were not today's kitchen. Mm-hmm. And that was like a thing. Yeah, but people, you can see that. You can see that these are the cabinets that you're going to get when you put the offer in.
And if I update these items, I'm not going to sell it at this price.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to want more for my updates.
Give me more money.
Yeah.
Right.
So they have to keep that in mind.
Quick sidebar. So you know how we go in those houses and all the bathrooms had that old pink tile, that old blue tile and all of that? Do y'all think our kids gonna look at us crazy like that in the future with all the gray and the white trim?
100%.
Like why everybody's house painted gray?
I don't know. I think it's such a neutral color, but maybe Shaka may be right because in 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I really liked the tan. Give me the tan wall.
Doing the tan.
Give me my cabinets. I want the wood. Mm-hmm. I want the granite with the tan and the gold. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The stainless steel.
That's why I don't focus on that. I don't focus on the colors. I'm not big on like trying to make everything HGTV. Right. I'm big on making sure that They have their trades are updated. You got new
Right.
plumbing, you got new electrical, you got a new hot water heater, furnace, those type of things. I'm not big on. I don't care about the cosmetic
Right.
issues. I stick to the same script.
No,
But
no.
huh?
To be clear, we're only upgrading those things if we see there's a problem. If
Well,
we
we're
go in
upgrading. It
and
depends.
works,
Yeah,
it's
it
not
depends on the flip.
necessarily going to be
But
happening.
no, but I'm always
I like to
yes,
say
but
it.
I'm typically always gonna upgrade your panel. I'm not rewiring your house, but I'm gonna upgrade
Okay.
your panel. I'm gonna make sure that if you have galvanized plumbing, I'm gonna make sure you at least have PEX. If your hot water heater is old as hell, I'm gonna upgrade that. If same thing for your furnace, your roof, your windows.
Right.
Them the things I care about. I don't care about what color your paint
Yeah, because
is.
everybody can go in and
Yeah.
paint their own house.
Yeah, I don't care what kind of color your floor is. Like
Right.
one of my investors right now, they like they sending me all their Pinterest and everything. They want to
Yeah.
do it up. I'm like, bro, this is a flip,
Right.
and you paid a flip price, so
Yeah.
you're gonna get you're getting a flip rehab. You know what I mean? Not a homeowner. Homeowners is different. I feel like they can get whatever they want because this is where you're gonna be at. You know,
You
what
got
I'm saying?
to sellers need to realize you're putting a house together for the market. It's no longer your house. So you want to keep your taste out of it,
Yes.
right? Unless you somebody famous designer and somebody like, and people like, oh yeah, I brought Kanye house with the fur on the wall. It came with boots.
I would be honest. I was worried. I'm like, because I like so in my house, the lights are the thing, right?
Right.
But that was my thing, and I'm like, yeah, I'm probably gonna have to change all these lights out if I go to
When
sell
you
it.
sell it, right? People need to think about. It's just a house on the market. To the average buyer, it's just a house on the market.
Clean and as free from defects as you can make it.
Right.
What else you got?
Showing requests.
Ah,
Yeah, I have sellers. Well, I don't want to let the appraiser in on this day. Can he come next Friday?
Bruh.
And then turn around and be like, when we close, and I'm like, you delayed the appraisal 2 weeks. Like, come on. And then showing requests. Oh, they can't. I got 3 requests for Monday. You wanted to sell your house, right? You had 3 requests for Monday.
Good.
Well,
right?
and they be like, well, I don't know. Well, I don't have a house together yet. Like, man, we did coming soon a week ago. You knew it was coming on the market, and you don't got it together.
that goes into the what thing we talked about, the tenants, the tenant occupied
Oh,
showings, not. So we were discussing if that's really the seller working against you. So Shaka is like, that's not, that's not controllable, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my thing is like, well, shoot, if the lease is up in January, let's just talk about going live February 1st because you may be doing yourself more harm than good if someone doesn't want to assume that responsibility of that tenant who's not allowing ease of getting into the house for showings and inspections.
I had a seller that had a vacant house. We had a lot of activity on it, just not offers within their first 2 weeks. And I was like, we're going to get an offer. But he had it priced for retail market, not investor pricing. And he moved the tenant in there. And I'm like, you never going to get an owner-occupant buyer now. Not at that price. Because now they got to wait till you get the tenant out. You're going to have a trouble. You just knocked yourself back down to investor pricing.
Literally.
And it was like, well, I paid this for it. Investor should. No, all investors not stupid like that. Investors not going to pay you full market value. Most investors want to pay you 70%, 80%.
They want to make some money. It's got to be a win-win.
Yeah,
right?
it's got to be some equity in it. So, yeah, well, they can buy this turnkey, yeah, but not at that price.
Yeah.
They ain't making no money on your turnkey bad investment.
It's just like
Right.
you have to, people have to be able to get into the house. A lot of times when we see like the days on the market where it's like, I would say more than like 120 days. And then you look down and it's like, oh, it's tenants' rights. Oh, you want to offer before you see the
Yeah.
house. Oh, you texting, the situation where I showed the house today. I mean, I've been waiting to get into this house with my clients for 2 weeks, and then the tenant made it so miserable looking at the house. It's just kind of like, forget this house.
Right.
So what do y'all think of some reasons that? So this is why I don't think that is the sellers working against you in that case. I understand that it could be a better opportunity for them if they didn't have a tenant, but they're paying a mortgage possibly.
Right.
possibly a hard money loan or whatever they're paying
Right.
on that. And yeah, they want to stop the bleeding a little bit.
I
Yeah, I
mean,
get
if you're
that,
trying to
but if
sell
the-
it to a retail buyer, owner occupant buyer, and the house was vacant when we put it on the market, then you put a tenant in
Totally
there,
different.
that's working against
But
you.
if you
Totally.
got one that's
I agree.
tenant
I agree in that.
occupy and the lease is up in 6 months and you want to sell the property, it's a good possibility that you're going to yield a better return once you get that tenant out, clean the house up, refresh it, and then put it on the market.
I got an argument.
It's a
See, that's what they're
numbers
gonna say.
game.
I
Well,
argue.
here's a numbers game, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, what price do they want? Do they want the retail value or they want investor pricing?
And it can be, so yes, so if the house has the amenities and it's priced right, or even if it's not priced right, because a buyer can go into that house and still put an offer in, and they could probably win a really good deal based
Right.
on that seller having a hard to deal with tenant. That's if they
Yeah.
have, we're talking about a hard to deal with tenant.
Right.
So that could work out in the buyer's behalf if that's the case. But if
We
you
talking
know,
about investor buyer or
no, like a
owner-occupant?
regular
Both.
owner
I
occupant.
think both.
So like the situation that I had today, this is an owner occupant. They are more like investors in their mind though, because they want to buy something that it has equity already.
Right.
One of the things they ask is like, okay, well, that's fine. It's a tenant in there. So how much are they paying? So they weren't necessarily bothered by the tenant, but then the house was in good shape. The tenant was keeping it up. So there was none of that kind of thing going on.
Right.
But the house didn't have enough amenities to deal with this hard to deal with person.
So they probably weren't gonna buy it either way. So, but my argument on that is, you're saying that actually I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna save my argument.
All right. I know.
I'm the same
I understand what you're saying. You're saying them having a tenant is not really going against us because they have to do what's necessary to cover their expenses, right? But with that being said, my advice is if you want a retail value for this property, retail price, this is what you have to do. And the least resistance we get to closing, the better. That tenant is a big problem. Because if you can't get that tenant to vacate within 30 days after closing, most buyers will give you 30 days occupancy.
For free.
But you can't guarantee that when you got a tenant in there, right? So if I'm buying a house, the buyer's buying a house, let's say FHA, which means you gotta have your private inspection in most cases and your appraisal. And the tenant don't let their inspector in, which we know happens. Tenant don't let their appraiser in. Now you got a re-inspection fee, then you got to reschedule the inspection. Then when you get the list of repairs, tenant won't let the contractors in. You just got too many issues to deal with. But if it's already tenant occupied, you set the expectations, right? And I tell the buyer, look, this property is tenant occupied. It's a chance this is going to take longer because it's a tenant occupied property and they're not cooperating.
So from the seller's perspective, they got to go in, they got to get rid of money, income that's coming in.
Right.
The tenant paying rent.
Short-term pain, but the long-term gain.
That's gonna be my argument on that. So okay, whatever that number is, right? Whatever that number is to get the tenant moved out, and then you got to come back in and you got to refresh the house, right? Or you got to improve or do some rehab, right?
Right.
That's more money.
You probably had to do that same work anyway.
Maybe not. You know what I mean? You buying a house as is, and we all
talking
know
about retail buyer though.
I agree. But we all know that when you have furniture in the house, this is one of the reasons why people stage, right?
Right.
When you have furniture in the house, it hides a lot of those imperfections. When you have that vacant house, people see everything. Sometimes we have furniture, you got pictures on the wall, you got a couch hiding this, you got a rug, you know what I mean? It's things that are kind of hidden, right?
Well, you
We're
talking
not
about
talking about
cosmetic
like
stuff.
not real defects, but
Both.
cosmetic things.
Both.
Yeah.
Both.
Gonna draw your eye up.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
you're gonna get an inspector that's gonna go in. They're gonna look behind the couch, see if the wall's solid. They're gonna test the plug.
But he ain't gonna say, "Hey, yeah, it's a paint glob behind that couch right there."
But that's cosmetic.
But if you
though.
agree, but cosmetics, a lot of these buyers, a lot of the buyers are looking at cosmetics. They not even that's what they fighting over. They fighting over the cosmetics, not the main shit. You know what I mean? They're fighting over the dumb shit. So then you spending this extra money and you just lost money, and then all to gain that same amount of money that y'all talking about. Because it's not like they
gain
Not
that same
necessarily.
amount.
Yeah,
Of
they
money.
probably yield a better return.
So you heard you say probably.
Yeah, they
it's
probably
not
will.
guaranteed.
It is. It's more guaranteed. It's more likely that you're going to yield a better return than the house that's been sitting for 250 days because you have tenant rights listed on your listing.
Well, you just changed I'm not talking about a 250-day house.
I said that
right?
though.
Yeah,
But it
you're
becomes
changing.
200.
That's what I
150
said.
days.
I said
So
we're
I'm talking
talking
about
about the hard to deal with tenant.
So I'm talking about, we said tenant period, right? And I'm not talking about where you just put a brand new tenant in there. We're talking about tenant occupied as opposed to vacant. And then what y'all saying is vacant houses are going to be easier to sell. That's what y'all saying.
To a regular retail,
To a retail,
owner,
to
occupant
another
buyer.
homeowner.
Yeah,
right?
no. When we start rewinding a few minutes, because I said we're let's make sure we say this. We're talking about the hard to deal with tenant.
So not
because
the
tenant that allows you in the house and allows you to market the property and allows you to sell it, like that's not a problem.
Okay, so that
The
person,
tenant you walk in, they be like, I'm moving anyway.
Yeah,
that tenant.
Okay,
those easy to sell.
Okay, so y'all saying the hard to deal with tenant is knocking the price down by about what's the percentage?
It varies depending on the price point of the house, but it can vary.
Because if y'all had to guesstimate,
I was about 25%.
Yep, I was gonna say 20 to 30%.
So because on $100,000 house, that should come down $30,000.
You pushing the value of that property. Yeah.
Shaka, this is if me and you.
I'm not going to agree with y'all, but I hear y'all. I'm not going to agree with that.
If I see a house and I call you and I say, dog, the houses over here are going for this amount. Mm-hmm. This seems to be a really nice house. It does have a tenant in it, but it's been on the market for damn near 300 days, and I know why. Because it's a subject to tenant rights. So obviously they got a problem with the tenant. Mm-hmm. We just had Darius come in here and say a lot of the bids that he won was due to people passing up those listings because they say subject to tenant rights. Mm-hmm. And that's an investor. It's a reason for that.
Hold on, y'all.
So let me ask you.
Two different things.
I'm gonna make
I don't care who said it, but there's no way y'all not gonna find no data to say that y'all what y'all saying.
When you brought your house, did you get a mortgage?
You said it again.
When you brought your house, did you get a mortgage?
Yes.
Was it owner occupied, tenant occupied, or vacant?
Built it.
You built it, right? Let's say you're buying a house for you and your family to live in, and there's a tenant there, right? And you're comfortable with buying a home with a tenant in it. But you know this tenant is uncooperative, right? With inspections, and you already know the purchase process, right? Now, let's say the house is $400,000 and it's been on, let's not even say it's been on the market. $400,000 house, a tenant that's not really cooperating, letting appraisers in inspections. How much you gonna pay for that house?
I'm gonna pay the same amount. I'm just gonna tell the seller that that's their responsibility to take care of that.
Get the tenant out.
Yeah.
Before closing?
100%. Yeah.
Right.
Prior to closing.
But if the seller doesn't have the money to do the repairs and handle the tenant,
that ain't my problem. But I'm not
Right.
paying. But that's not what y'all saying.
The lease is in place.
So here,
we're talking about a tenant that you're gonna have to evict, and then they want to close. They want to close before.
That's changing the conversation. So we weren't. Yes.
Okay.
If I had to spend money.
Okay, we got three different scenarios.
If I got to spend money when I come in the house, for sure I want a discount.
Right. So that's where we clarify this. So most of the people I deal with, they want to sell it with the tenant in there. They want the buyer to assume the tenant.
They're not being realistic, right? Yeah, then I agree. So in that situation,
so
yes, you're going to lose. You're going to have to pay some.
That's what we're talking about.
Because I got to come in and spend money to get into my house.
Yeah,
but just because you have a tenant in there,
right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
but if it's a situation where the house is going to be vacant at closing, that doesn't change the value.
That's what I'm talking about. So
but you didn't
I'm
say
saying
that at first.
But that's
not that he said that, but.
He didn't specify that.
Oh, okay. So my bad. That's what I meant. So
well, if the tenant gonna be, if it's gonna be vacant at closing,
I was talking about the hard to deal with subject to tenant rights.
Deal.
It's a lease in place.
Well, but when me and you were talking,
that's what I was trying to explain. That was a whole situation that I had to deal with. So one of the reasons why I came up was because the house that I showed, one of the houses that I showed today was there's a lease in place. Mm-hmm. It doesn't expire for this amount of time, like next year sometime.
Oh, then that's automatic.
It's been on the market for this many days. So yeah, if my clients had said, let's move forward with that, we were never, even if they wanted to put in a full asking price offer, we were not putting in a full asking
Yeah, because you
price
got to wait
offer.
until that lease up before.
Well,
you
all right.
move
I'm gonna
in.
say this. It depends. So yeah. So y'all are. So this house that has this tenant that has another damn near year to be in there is on the market for retail.
Yes.
Oh, well, that realtor didn't know what the fuck they was doing. You know what I mean? That's not the client working against you. That's the unless the realtor told that client, hey, we're gonna have to discount this for these reasons, and that client didn't listen. But if that realtor listed that at retail,
not listening.
but I'm saying, but in this situation, it sounds like the realtor may have been one of those people like Janita said she didn't want to be, that listed the property at a higher amount than they should have. That's on the realtor.
Well, it might be on the seller because
Yeah.
they ain't listened to
No,
the
you took the listing. You took the listing.
Yeah,
That's
that's
on the
true.
realtor, right?
It's on both of them.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So yes, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about that hard to deal with tenant occupied, subject to tenant rights. This house been sitting here not moving because this tenant has been a problem.
Yeah, if it's going to be vacant before closing, whether it's a tenant or owner occupant, you're getting the same result as a buyer. So my advice to a seller is if you started the eviction process or you know for a fact this tenant is going to be out, the only risk is you may not close on time until this tenant get out. And there's no harm in that. You can still get retail value.
Yes.
But the issue I have when sellers don't listen is when they put a tenant in the property in the middle of us marketing.
That's
the property.
crazy. That's
We marketed the property with immediate occupancy.
I got Dean. I know you're getting ready to say something, but I got one more thing.
No, it's three
So
more.
I got one quick one.
What me?
Three
Dan?
more.
I want to talk about the tenant. I mean, in this market right here,
Right.
where the seller is so used to the previous market, a year ago market, this same time last year, where the
Right.
houses were flying off the market, right?
Right.
Not saying that houses still aren't, but they are staying on the market a lot longer than they were last year, right?
Right.
So what about that seller who is so scared because after week 1 or week 2, they haven't received those 10 offers that they're thinking that they were going to get based on last year's market. Somebody comes in with a lower offer or an offer that you don't think is good, and now they want to accept that offer because they think that their house should have sold in 7 days instead of whatever the average days on
21.
market is right now. You know what the average days on market
21?
is right now?
About 21, depending
21
on the
days.
area too.
Right.
So in some areas it's closer to 30.
40.
Yeah. So,
But I'll just say you can accept this offer, but I think we still got, based on the interest, you might can still get closer to your price based on this data. But that's why up front I tell them, this the average price and average days on the market. If you want to accept less, it's going to sell quicker.
right.
But this is not last year. You're not going to get 20 offers the first week unless it's that house.
Right.
Like
And
my
you just
Santa
had that
Rosa.
house, yeah.
I had
That's
that
what I
house.
was talking about. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
that house in real life.
That
Yeah.
house was beautiful.
That was.
So, okay, I got 3 things.
Pop my collar like the Fonz. Hey.
I want to talk about the house, but we're going to talk about it on another subject, though.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So staging when the seller is in foreclosure and cleaning. Cleaning is the most simpler one.
Clean your damn house when it's on the market.
Look, I just showed. I don't think that was you. Had a clean one over there. I was showing houses the other day, but I went in a house, and on the pictures you can see it's just like debris, not like. You know how you walk to some houses and it's like, oh, you got to pull the carpet up and oh, it smells bad. Not really like that, but more so like, why is there all this paper and this mail? And
it wasn't filthy. It was junky. That's the
and it wasn't
difference.
even that junky. It was like somebody probably could have taken 15 minutes and just went over there. But the agent, and I don't even know if this might be an agent. Maybe we got to come back with a new episode.
It might be one of
Because,
my probate listings.
Yes,
I got something like that.
the seller could have did this. So I press my sellers on stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the agent, to me, also could have went over there for like that 15 minutes, took like one of them little, the bags you get from the grocery store and put that stuff in there.
Wait a
Like-
minute.
I ain't
Wait
touching
a
nobody,
minute.
nothing.
Now, I've have done stuff like somebody got like their garbage can on the side messing with the photos. But I had clients tell me, especially on my probate deals, don't touch nothing in that house. Even though they live out of town, they like, leave it like it is, sell it like it is. We want to go through all that paperwork. They don't want you touching
Well,
nothing.
you could put it all together.
I'm
and
like,
put
why
it
are we
in the
putting it on the
cabinet?
market then, right? But yeah, sometimes people just don't clean up because they lazy.
But this is obvious. What I saw that day was like obvious trash, not mail. Like somebody, it was almost like somebody deliberately took pieces of paper and balled them up. But anyway, I digress. So the reason I want to talk about the seller and foreclosure first.
We are out of time. We have to bring that up. Yeah, we way past.
Really? The touch.
Well, we got 30-minute shows now.
No, we way past 30 minutes.
Damn. All right, that's a wrap.
Well,